The railroad had a huge impact on the town of Buxton. The York and Cumberland Railroad Company was organized in 1848 at Portland and ran as far as Gorham in 1850. It was 1855 when trains reached Buxton. The station in Bar Mills was named Saco River Station and was the end of the line for 12 years.
When those people with resources decided that we really should extend the railroad to Alfred, Rochester, and so forth, the citizens of Buxton were completely against that. They fought it tooth and nail. They didn't want to appropriate any money. They didn't want to have any part of it because everybody brought their goods and services through Buxton. Anyone that was traveling anywhere outside of town would take the railroad into town.
The railroad also gave rise to the Saco River villages, allowing them to use the available water power to make things that could be exported. During the early days of the 1800s, Buxton Center was the industrial hub of Buxton.
We're famous for our coat shop, the Hanson Coat Shop, and those goods used to be loaded in the station down in Buxton Center, on the lower part of Buxton Center on Route 22.
The first industry we had in Buxton was the coat shop. Samuel D. Hanson went to Boston. He learned tailoring in Boston. He came back to his family at Buxton Center, and they started making coats. That was our first key industry before the Civil War, during the Civil War, and a little bit after the Civil War, and employed everybody. 1,800 women in the community, Buxton and far beyond, sewing on these coats. At that point, they're fortunate they had the railroad, so they could bring in cloth on the railroad, and they could export coats on the railroad. So all of a sudden, they had the transportation they needed for industry, and Buxton Center grew up around that coat shop operation.
The Hanson Coat Shop was preceded by the Eldon Store, a general store and post office located in Buxton Center and run by the Eldon family. Built in 1802, the Eldon Store is the oldest commercial building in Buxton. Samuel Hanson purchased the building in 1852 and became one of Buxton's major industrialists, using the building as a distribution, manufacturing, and packing facility for his Hanson Coat Shop. The movement of railroads into Buxton served as a catalyst for business growth, as well as being, for a time, primary source of transportation for the citizens of Buxton. Bar Mills used to be served by a railroad, having both passenger and freight trains.
Well, they had passenger trains go through, and as a matter of fact, I think there was 4 or 5 trips a day. They were pretty frequent. You know, we're in between here and Portland, and I know we could get on train, you know, drive right into Portland and back and stuff. And, you know, but I think then when the cars became more prevalent, then I think the passenger business dropped off. And then I got out of college. I went to work for the Maine Central, and at that time, they had the passenger service. And but I think 2 or 3 years after I'd been there, they just did away with the passenger service and, you know, just the freight lines.
I remember them as exports. In fact, my dad put milk on the train to go to Boston. The Boston Creamery bought his cream.
There used to be a railroad train that went from Sanford to Portland, and it crossed right through our property. They would go to the grain mills, and I remember going down to Gorham Depot and walking in and getting grain for the cows, grain for the horses, dog food, coal. that depot was turned into a restaurant. The earliest memories that I have are when I was under 5 years old and watching the train go down through our property and hearing it go through in the morning and whistling and coming back through and whistling on the way back. The conductor would wave and blow the whistle, and we would be so excited. I remember being in the house and hear the train coming down the tracks, and it was an exciting part of the day to see the train go through. A part of my childhood that I looked at fondly. It was very beautiful. Behind me to my right is a bridge that the Belgian workhorses and some of the cattle used to go under to get from pasture to pasture when the gates were closed to the railroad tracks during the day. If the cattle or the horses wanted to go on the other side, they had to use the bridge, or they had to go through the gates when we opened them. This part of the farm is my favorite part, and it's just so beautiful to look at this bridge.
The railroad changed the entire farming economy. Wheat was no longer grown because grains were imported from the Midwest and elsewhere at a cheaper price.
During the 70s, the railroad made proposal to abutting landowners for the opportunity to buy back the land. And I remember being in high school and the railroad ties were being pulled. So the tracks actually were pulled before that.
Freight service stopped when the last mill in Sanford closed around 1961.